This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
You know you need fiber for a healthy gut, but do you actually know how to get it? Quaker's been serving up fiber since 1877, with over 100 great-tasting, good source of fiber options to choose from. Whether you like old-fashioned oats, instant oatmeal, granola, or oatmeal squares, Quaker makes it delicious. So good. Get your fiber with Quaker. Shop Quaker's good source of fiber products at a store near you.
Nothing brings people together quite like Team USA at the Olympic Winter Games. From NBC Universal's iconic storytelling to the innovative technology across Xfinity and Peacock, Comcast brings the Olympic Games home to America, sharing every moment with millions. When Team USA steps onto the world stage, people aren't just watching, they're cheering together. This winter, everyone is all on the same team. Comcast, proud partner of Team USA.
Are you stuck staring at your W-2? Are tax refund worries holding you back? You probably have FOMO, the fear of messing up. The fix? Using TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They find every credit and deduction to help you get every refund dollar you deserve, or your money back. It's time to overcome your fear of messing up and get your taxes done right. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
Hey there, Duke fans. Welcome to episode 814 of the Duke Basketball Roundup. We got a special one for you. We got a great victory in the Sweet 16 over St. John's. We are moving on to the Elite Eight, and we're here to tell you all about it. I'm Jason Evans. I'm joined by my buddy, Donald Wine. Donald was at the game last night, a truly, truly exciting contest. By the way, folks, just so you know, check your feed. In addition to this recap that we're about to do, we will be putting out a special preview of the UConn game, get you prepared for that contest on Sunday evening as the Blue Devils will be playing for a spot in the Final Four. But that is for a future episode. Right now, Donald, we are here to talk about the victory over St. John's. Dude, you were there. Give me a little flavor of what it was like to be in the arena.
You know, it's funny. I had a press pass. I was sitting up in the actual press box for the Wizards, which is high up. If you had a nosebleed seat, you were lower than I was in this arena. So I got the aerial view of this game. But Jason, I think there was a lot of St. John's folks there. Everyone there, there's a few right in front of us, and they were going loud, strong the whole game. You could hear the Duke fans because I was on the other side of the arena from them. As you know, the Sweet 16 is broken up basically into quadrants, and two of the quadrants are normally empty because those are the teams that are playing later, and they start to gradually fill in as the first game ends. And I think for the Duke fans, they showed up. This was the most expensive regional ever in NCAA tournament history. So there's a lot of people who gathered at the pregame here and did not go to the game because they didn't have tickets, but they just wanted to be there. Jason, I met so many people. I met your former roommate, I think, Kobe. I met him. I met your brother-in-law, Tim. Kenny Denard was there. We got to say hello. Just so many people that came up to me and said thank you, thank us for doing this. And once again, it's still surreal that someone recognizes my voice from this. and has nice things to say about said voice. So it was very, very cool. But Jason, I'm so glad that we get to survive to play another day. And I know we'll get to it, but I just want to say that was a legendary performance that we saw last night from none other than Caleb Foster.
Yeah, look, Duke played Louisville earlier this year, and I said it shall forever be known as the Caleb Foster game. This one might we might have a new Caleb Foster game. I mean, to do what he did less than 3 weeks after a broken bone, a broken metatarsal in his foot, surgery is just, it's insane. We'll get to that in a second. I want to point out a couple things really quick. Here's the list. Here is the list of all the coaches who have made 3 Elite Eights under the age of 40. Coach under the age of 40 who has made the Elite Eight 3 times. It's a long list, Donald. Dean Smith, Bobby Knight, John Shire. That's it.
And none of them have done 4, and John Shire's 38 years old. So he has a chance to break that next year. I mean,
it's outrageous. This, by the way, is the first time that Duke has gone to 3 consecutive Elite Eights since we had a run from 1988 to 1992. I was at Duke in a legendary run where Duke was making the Final Four. It felt like almost every year, and obviously they made the Elite Eight to make the Final Four. But it's incredible to think about the fact that John Shire has now accomplished something that hasn't been done by a Duke team since 1992. The 90, 91, 92 was the last time we went to 3 straight championship games. But, hey, John, we're getting there, baby. We're getting there. Just super, super impressive for this team to have advanced as far as it did. And, Donald, let me begin our coverage of the game itself with the headlines. I know you were very busy. You were in the post-game locker room. We're going to be getting sound that we'll be listening to some of what you spoke to the players about a little bit later on in this podcast. But because you were busy working on that stuff, I was busy compiling the headlines as the dbrpodcast@gmail.com inbox exploded the moment the game ended, as you might imagine. And because it was just me, you weren't on it at all. And because there were so many, I got the best of the best. I got 6 really, really solid ones here. I'm going to start with Mark Goodell. Mark Goodell gave us, and this is my alliteration one, he gave us elation, Evans effect, and endgame execution equal Elite Eight entry. Wow.
That's good. A lot of E's.
Really nice job on the alliteration there, Mark. John Grantland, who's always comes through for us. I really enjoyed this one. He said, Johnny's be good, but Dukies be better. I like that a lot. By the way, Jeffrey Lamb, this is awesome. He goes, look, guys, I know you like alliteration and poems, but he said, here is my entire headline. Caleb effin Foster. That was
I hear the alliteration, Jeff, so I'm with you there.
Larry Chapman gave us this: all heart, no quit. Foster wills it, Evans thrills it, and Duke dances into the Elite Eight. Very nice job there. Matt Rosen, who's a first-timer. Now, Matt did something that a lot of people did. I think I've had about a half dozen of these, and I'll explain it in one second, but I went with Matt's because I liked his and because he's a first-timer. Anytime you're a first-timer, you pointed out, you're going to get a little extra bonus
I saw
from
a few
us.
of these. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So Matt gave us give the devil his due, but he spelled due D-U space E because the K is ripped away, as we saw. Kaden Boozer's jersey, the K at his jersey was quite literally ripped off his jersey. Donald and I will be talking a little bit later on about the referees and the amount of pushing, grabbing, holding, and other stuff that they allowed in this game. It was pointed out by numerous people that Duke should take that jersey that was literally ripped by St. John's and stitch it up like really badly, like, Frankenstein stitches kind of thing, and let Cam wear it next game, because between the scars that are still in his arm from the NC State Wolfpack and the tattered jersey, maybe the referees will understand that, hey, this Cam guy, he's getting abused a little bit. I mean, I know he gets a lot of foul calls, but it could be way, way even more. But the Duke was due, D-U-K ripped out E, was a popular theme, and Matt Rosen gave us that. And then last one, Donald, Eric Savage. You're going to enjoy this. Duke wins rock fight as Caleb brings the biggest stones.
Yeah. I like that one.
Oh, that is amazing. The stones on Caleb Foster are a big story in this game.
So I'm going to hijack this because we're going into the good. We're starting with Caleb Foster. I would say his middle name, but I don't know what it is. I do know Slim's middle name is DeMonte. We'll get to Isaiah DeMonte, Showtime Slim Evans in a minute. But first, Caleb Foster. Jason, obviously, I was up at the top of the press box, at the top of the arena. And when he checked into the game, even the St. John's fans were like, oh my God, how is this guy playing? Right? Like, that was the buzz around the arena when he checked in at that first media timeout. He immediately has the alley-oop to Pat Gungba. And
first play, like immediately.
10 seconds on the court. He grabs the ball, he throws it to Pat. Pat dunks it. Jason, I texted you and Scott this. I started to clap, and 3/4 of the way through, I pulled my hands back into my chest because I realized I was on press row and I couldn't stand up and hoot and holler. Funny enough, the people next to me were all Duke students who were there covering for Duke Student Broadcasting, and they were all doing the same thing. They're like, can't cheer on press row, but what we didn't realize was that was the start of one of the most legendary performances that anyone has seen in a Duke uniform. The fact that Jon Scheyer was visibly emotional after the game in the locker room, I didn't even capture this sound, but every single guy that I got to talk to, every single guy in the locker room, the word dog was passed around, and they were like, Caleb Foster was a dog tonight. None of them knew he was playing. None of the players I talked to had any indication that he was going to play because they said even as late as yesterday, he was practicing, but he had not done 5-on-5. He was still limping a little bit. I didn't see that when I got to see the 10-minute warm-up, but when they were actually going through, they're like, yeah, he's still laboring a little bit, and we had no idea that he was going to play. So for him to come out and put out a performance where all in the second half he had 11 points, he had that 7-minute spurt where he had 7 points in a row, right when we went down 10, and then towards the end to kind of help us seal it, he had fake jump fake, pullback jumper, and then the layup on the ensuing possession. Like, those 11 points changed everything. Everybody in the locker room, everybody on that team said, we do not win this game without Caleb Foster, and I agree, because not just was his performance a boost, just being there a boost to the rest of the team and even the fans that were there, but his energy, for someone who had not done 5-on-5, it didn't look like it. That man was everywhere. He was trying, and sure, there was times where he looked a little rusty. He didn't have a lot of lift on his shot. Him and Pat did. I'm sure we'll talk about Pat in a little while. But they didn't have any lift on their shot outside of 3 feet. But man, when it came down to it, the one thing that we were talking about amongst people at the pregame was, if he's going to go, it's probably because he can cut and move and go to the basket, because that's what we're going to need him to do. And man, did he do that. There were so many times where he was able to slash through like the Caleb Foster of old, like he hadn't missed a beat in those green shoes. I don't know what green shoes are. Post a link. I'm sure some people will buy them. That's how legendary performance we had tonight, or last night, from Caleb Foster.
I mean, the fact that they said he hadn't played any 5-on-5 in weeks is kind of incredible. The fact that he was even out there. But when you add to that, Duke's down 10. We were reeling. If you were confident that Duke was going to win this game at that moment, then you have irrational exuberance. And yet, here came Caleb Foster, scores 7 points in a row. It was like that Louisville game where he was just like, I'm just going to go downhill. I'm going to get in the lane. I'm stronger. I'm more creative than you are. I'm more patient than you are. And I'm going to get to a spot where you can't stop me. There aren't words. I'm struggling because there aren't words to describe one of the most heroic performances that we'll ever see by a player in the Duke uniform. Maybe we're prone to hyperbole on this podcast, but it is one of the most heroic performances on the biggest stage at one of the biggest moments that can possibly happen in a season. And for a guy to do that after 20 days after surgery on his foot, of course, Jon Scheyer was on the verge of tears, because that was courage, bravery, toughness being there for your teammates in a way that is just special, special, special.
I mean, look, again, we'll get to the locker room sound later, but I'll just tell you, Jason, there was probably 15 minutes of like sound that I just cut immediately, because it did not matter what the question was. If you had asked a player what's 2 + 2, they would have said, man, it's Caleb Foster, man. Like every single answer that all these guys gave was, I can't believe Caleb Foster came back. I can't believe he did that. I can't believe he put on that performance. That man's a dog. That man's a legend. Every single guy, you could tell. And the fact that they all didn't know that he was going to play, I'm sure that was just a massive boost for him. He even took he even parked his wheelie right by the bench, like to come out. Like he was out there, and it looked like he didn't miss a beat. But for that to have happened 20 days after surgery, there is sorcery in this world. Caleb Foster is the prime example of that, but you also can't spell legend anymore the way we do. It's spelled Caleb, because that, my friends, was absolutely incredible what he just did.
Yeah, he saved us. I mean, there's no question about it. There's it's just, accepted as fact that he saved us. We were dead and he saved us, brought us back. By the way, his second half plus minus, he's +7 that led the team in a tight, tense game that was mostly just going back and forth. To post a +7 plus minus shows you the difference maker that he was for the Blue Devils in the second half. Donald, I want to transition us, and it's it's sort of an extension of what Caleb provided. I want to talk about toughness, resiliency. Duke was in a rock fight. Grant Hill on the broadcast described it was a street fight. And this team did not back down 1 inch from a super physical St. John's team that had no business being a 5 seed. I mean, like everyone in the post game, John Shire, I saw some post game interviews and he was like, that team was a 5 seed. I'm sorry, what? Have we lost our collective minds? You and I've been furious about this for a long time about them, but I want, so specifically, not just to this game, but to this season, this Duke team is easily, we have to put them among the toughest Duke teams of all time. They are now on the season. This is an incredible stat. Duke has trailed in games double digits. Duke has had a double-digit deficit in 6 different games this year. Their record in those games is 6-0. Like, oh, you're up 10? We got you just where we want you. It is absurd. It's ridiculous that this team is able to do this again and again and again. And part of the toughness comes on the boards, rebounding. This is our 8th straight game where we've won the rebounding battle by a double-digit margin. And St. John's is a really good rebounding team. We won it by 13, 40-27. We won second chance points 15-8 in a game you win by 5, winning second chance points by 7. That may have been the difference, Donald. I'm not going to say any one thing was the difference, but that might have been the one thing that was the difference. This team they don't back down from a moment. When the going gets tough, they say, we're going to be tougher. I'm sure we're going to talk about it more, but I mean, come on. St. John's takes a 2-point lead with 4 minutes left, and Isaiah
he
Evans,
played like Isaiah Thomas. I'll say that.
Isaiah Evans hits a step back 3-pointer, like insane shot. And then on the very next play, Kaden Boozer gets an absurd 3-point play where he's just absolutely, destroyed, but he makes the basket anyway. Gave us breathing room in the game. I mean, like those plays, just toughness, resiliency. This is a Duke team that doesn't know how to lose. They really don't. And that's a quality that matters. I couldn't be. We've had Duke teams that are more skilled than this team. We've had Duke teams that had more, future lottery pick kind of guys. Again, this is one of the toughest Duke teams that we've had in a long, long time.
That slim cam sequence with the 3 and then the and 1, I had written that down as a play of the game candidate. So that was a play where, again, me and the Duke students that were next to me, we kind of looked at each other like, oh my God, like this game. I think I attributed one game that we had just recently to Rocky 2, where it was just haymakers, back and forth. This was like Rocky 5. If this was the street fight version, this was Rocky 5, where we're doing it in broad, at night in front of a cement truck. But I think this game is indicative, and I asked these guys this in the press conferences the day before the game. I was like, hey, this is a physical game, but you guys have been in physical games before. How does that lesson kind of drift to this? And mainly these guys and coach said that the schedule that they laid out for this season prepares them for this, prepares them for every game to be physical, because they know that every team is going to try to be physical against them in a way to try and take them out of their element. And credit to St. John's, because they were aggressive with their physicality. And it took a while for us to kind of figure that out and make them stop, especially with just bringing the ball up. I mean, those weren't givens, right? Getting the ball across half court was not a given in this game. And I feel like every time this team gets a couple of haymakers to the face, they bounce off the ropes and they come back with a haymaker of their own. They survived a 13-0 kill shot early in the second half. That's what put them down 10 points. And that's when Caleb Foster checked into the game and said, guys, everything runs through me. And it's those type of performances, the resilience of this team is immeasurable. I'll tell you, as we kind of transition, Isaiah DeMonte Showtime Slim Evans had points in this game where he said, my turn. If people are throwing haymakers, I got two hands too. And he had some shots that were in the heat of the moment. You're like, yo, this is some heat check stuff. And they were going in, and you could tell that he was trying to put on a show to will this team back. The word will, the word determination, desire, those were all used throughout the game, or at least throughout the post game, by this team, of how they were able to tough this out. The toughness, the grit, the tenacity. They knew they were going up against the St. John's. They knew they had the match energy, and they didn't for stretches of this game. But when they were able to exceed what St. John's was putting out, that's when this game turned into a back and forth affair that even St. John's and Spartan fans were coming up to me in the concourse going, that was a really, really good game. Like, congratulations. We hope we see you on Sunday. And that toughness is why we're here. It started in that Texas game back on November 4th. We saw that improvement and that journey last night culminate in out-toughing a team down the stretch to get to the Elite Eight.
Well, you were talking about the schedule a moment ago. In the pregame, Rick Pitino, during one of his pregame press conferences, said he looked at the Duke schedule and he was like, I did a double take. I was like, wait, this can't possibly this was their schedule. He's like, this is their schedule this year?
Yeah, he said that yesterday. On Thursday. He was like, yeah, I really have to respect Duke, and also you have to respect the fact that they clearly are. He's like, I looked at their schedule, and they're clearly not ducking anybody, so yeah, they're going to be ready.
Yeah, you were talking about Slim. Plays 34 plus minutes. He was the Ken Palm MVP of this game. I'm going to go ahead and say it's probably his best game in a Duke uniform. Maybe the other candidate is the game against FSU in the ACC tourney, where he went nuclear and hit 7 3-pointers. Mm-hmm. I think because of the stage, this is probably the best game he had in a Duke uniform. Look, the 4 of 8 3-pointers were incredible. And yes, we're going to keep on talking about the step back three, which gave Duke the lead because it was unbelievable. But I think it's the 6 out of 7 2-point field goals that was really impressive, especially because they largely came in the first half. He was making a variety of moves. He was using his long stride and his long arms. He was, like getting around guys who are bigger, more physical, and scoring in the paint. Donald, we've talked. I know I've mentioned it probably a dozen plus times this year. Slim is not just a 3-point shooter. Slim is, finding ways to attack the basket. I feel like that was on display more in this game than we've seen it in any other game all year. And I want to point out, he did much of it. He did most of it while being guarded by Dylan Mitchell, who's like all Big East defensive team. I mean, Dylan Mitchell's an outstanding defender and is kind of built physically to be able to cause real problems for Slim. For Slim to have that kind of game, again, 6 of 7 2-point field goals, 4 of 8 on his threes. For him to do that against a team that is as good defensively as St. John's, as good a physical defender as Dylan Mitchell, it's unbelievable. And if you're the rest of college basketball, because you know what you're getting from, I mean, like Kaden Boozer is the most consistent player that college basketball has seen in a generation. So if we're suddenly going to add Slim doing what he's doing, it's like, oh, hello. What do we do? I don't know what we do to stop this Duke team.
Look, Slim and Cam both, I don't know what the shot chart shows, but there was maybe 4 or 5 layups that they had where they were outside of the lane. They had an impossible angle, and somehow the ball careened off the glass and in. And like you mentioned, a couple of them were through contact. For Slim, I think it's part of that. Like, I feel like he's online and he sees people go, oh, that guy just goes is a streaky shooter, and he was like, word, watch this. And he's been doing that all year. I see him. I'm seeing him in these streets because that's what people were talking about over the summer. Is Slim's just going to be out there shooting threes, and he's not going to do anything inside. He's too frail. He's got too thin a frame to do that. And he was probably like, okay, watch this. And he's been proving us wrong all season. And adding that to his game has really made it where I think the toughness part of him showed up last night too, right? It showed up in ways in all of us, but I think he took it to another level. The showtimeness of him wasn't flashy. It wasn't, it wasn't outlandish, right? It wasn't like him having fun. It was him telling St. John's, this is my willpower. My willpower is when I hit this three and come down and then stop you on the other end. And then I'm going to hit this circus layup in front of you, and you're going to make you throw up your hands and go, what else do I do to stop this guy? The answer is nothing. Sit back and enjoy the show. That's what Slim did last night at times. And man, he also, like you mentioned, the stones that Caleb Foster had. He showed some stones in a couple of those 3-pointers that he hit as well.
Oh yeah. But as we wrap up the conversation about Slim, about Isaiah Evans, I want to make sure everyone has seen. There was a wonderful story done by Chris Lee of WRAL. Chris, buddy, he's now a buddy of mine. I met him in Greenville last week, and we've been chatting a lot lately. Chris did a fabulous profile of Isaiah's mom, and she talked about the fact that there were people out there. There was talk that Isaiah would maybe go elsewhere in the offseason. That he'd had what for him was a somewhat frustrating freshman year at Duke because he wasn't a starter. He certainly, again, look, the Auburn game against, he had a number of games.
But remember, he didn't play in several games before that.
Yeah. Struggled to get playing time. And she said, sure, there were people out there who said, go run, go find someplace else. And she was like, I told my son, no, you're staying, because when the going gets tough, you don't leave. You work harder. You become better. You figure out what it's going to take to become a great player here, as opposed to trying to become a great player there where there's maybe, less adversity. She said, embrace the adversity, use it to make yourself better. It's a fabulous interview with her. And you can see it in Slim's game. You can see it in the way he has improved, not just from last year, but from the beginning of this year until now, to become a player who, is just clutch and has variety to his game that, frankly, I think none of us ever thought we'd see from him. Hey, I want to really quick, if we can, let's get to Cam.
He had a big second half as well.
Yeah. The K in his jersey being ripped is just so symbolic. I said to myself when I saw it, I was like, "Is this a way of the team saying we've moved on from Mike Krzyzewski? Yeah. The K is gone." He scores 22 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists. He had a block shot. He drew 7 fouls on St. John's. I should revise that. He drew about 17 fouls on St. John's, but the refs called 7 of them. Cam has a will to win. He has an ability to make tough contested shots. That is just unparalleled. Again, 22, 10, and 3. And it's like just a routine game from him. We've never, I'm going to say it, we've never seen a Duke player who was this statistically dominant. I forget the exact numbers. Oh, okay. It was Okay, Donald, ready? They showed this on the broadcast. Here's the list of freshmen in college basketball to average 20 and 10. Ready? I think it's 20, 10, and 4. Sorry. 20 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists on a season. Here's the list. Larry Bird and Kaden Boozer. What?
Lawrence Bird? Lawrence Bird? French Lick, Indiana, Lawrence Bird?
What are we even talking about? And I loved, by the way, at the very end, you didn't get to see that because you didn't get to see this because you weren't watching the broadcast because you were in the arena. When Cam hit the free throws to seal it at the very end, to give Duke the insurmountable lead that we had in the final seconds. The camera flashed to Carlos Boozer in the crowd, and Carlos.
I saw that. Yeah,
he was going bye. He was saying bye to all the St. John's fans.
Jason, I don't know if you know this, but Cam Boozer is 6'9". You can pick him out of a lineup. It doesn't matter where in an arena you are. That man is tall. So when he started waving bye to the St. John's fans, you know what they did, Jason? Because they were right in front of me. They calmly turned around and started filing out.
Hey, dude, I want to talk a little bit about Malik Brown because I thought Malik had his best game in quite a while. His defense was absolutely outstanding. He was Malik the Menace that we have come to love and expect. 6 points, which is, whatever. 8 rebounds, including 4 offensive rebounds, is pretty big. But 4 blocks and 2 steals.
Yeah.
Had a plus-minus of +10, which led the team in a game where, nobody's putting up it because it was back and forth, really tough game. He had a plus-minus of +10. But again, 4 blocks, 2 steals. Malik was just outstanding. And I thought his defense early in the game, like the first 10 minutes or so of the game, allowed Duke to sort of calm down and adjust to all the things that St. John's was doing. It gave us a little early lead, which we needed because St. John's started turning us over and really came back very nicely on us. But Malik this was an outstanding contest from him.
I want to say it was during the 7-point spurt from Caleb Foster after we were down 10. But Malik Brown, at a certain point, he was on the left side. I'm sorry, I guess you were looking at the basket. He was on the right side of the court. And someone was trying to throw a pass to his man that he was guarding. And he deflected it so far that it went out of bounds on the left side of the court. He didn't stop to look at it. He just kind of blocked it and turned around because his guy was moving and was like the ball was going out of bounds. I don't even think he realized he had hit it that far because he was still moving with his opponent. And you hear the whistle blow and he kind of turns around like, wait, what happened? And people they're all like dapping him up. He's like, yeah, sure. That sounds like something I would do. But again, it was. By
the way, I think that
his hands were
really
active.
quick. I think that possession was the one. There was a possession he had where a deflection he made caused like 2 or 3 seconds to run off the shot clock. And
Yes.
St. John's ended up, I forget if it ended up with them having a shot clock violation or if they had to hoist up some terrible, terrible shot because the clock was almost dead. That's one of the things his deflections does is it forces the offense to reset. It forces everything to take longer. And it often results, it's functionally a turnover because the other team can't get a good shot in the 2 or 3 seconds they have left.
Well, I've said this before, right? He does this a lot. It's almost like it's calculated. There's times where he slaps the ball and there's an opportunity for him to go get it. And he kind of just tells the defender, no, go pick up the ball because he knows picking up the ball running in the backcourt to get the ball and collect it and then come back up. That's like 6 seconds gone. And so he's like, I'd rather take them, restarting their offense with under 7 seconds to go than me trying to maybe causing a foul by diving for a loose ball and just missing. So I thought his defense was great, especially again in the second half. These guys had a will when they were down 10. They didn't panic. They didn't flinch. They obviously had been in this situation before. They were, the whole gym at this point was starting to cheer for St. John's. All the UConn fans were coming in wearing some sort of red. They were all cheering for St. John's because they wanted to get Duke out of there. And it felt like this team, it almost was like, cool, we've been in this situation before. These fans aren't going to change that. So let's go ahead and play our game. Everyone in the locker room was talking about them just focusing in on themselves and focusing in on what got them there. And that was that rebounding. That was that defense and making them, you don't necessarily have to turn them over, but he was able to do that too. It was about forcing them to take tough shots, getting the rebound, and getting out on the break. Because for fast break points, it being tied on a team that, it felt like in the first half and early in the second half, everything St. John's did was a fast break off of turnover. This team was able to get fast break points, not necessarily off turnovers, but just off of really good defense.
Hey, I wanted to mention also Kaden Boozer. We've talked about a lot of guys who had really, really impressive statistical lines. The thing I want to cite about Kaden is that he only had 2 turnovers. And this is a St. John's team. They came into this game. They knew their best chance was to turn Duke over a lot. Duke only has 9 turnovers total in this game. My magic number, as I say all the time, is 12, and they stayed under that number. I know there were some flurries. There were just a couple. The crazy thing about the 9 turnovers is I think there were like 2 or 3 different flurries where Duke had 2 or 3 turnovers on like consecutive possessions. You're like, oh no, and then Duke would go 6 or 7 plus minutes without a turnover. I thought Kaden had a really, really excellent game handling the pressure that they were putting on him. And I wanted to specifically shout out. So he had 3. He had 7. It wasn't a huge statistical game from him. 7 points, 3 assists, and he plays 23 minutes. And this is a guy who'd been playing like 38 minutes when Cephas was hurt. So he had to adjust to playing a little bit less. But there was a play that Kaden had where he came down on a fast break, and he fired a pass behind. He kind of spun in the lane or something, and he fired a pass to Isaiah on the wing. Donald, I watched the replay 2 or 3 times. I don't know how he knew Isaiah was there. Like his back was to Isaiah, and he kind of spun. I don't know. It was incredible. It's the kind of pass. Duke has had good point guards, obviously, over the years, but I don't think we've had point guards who. It's been a long time since we had someone who is quite as creative passing as Kaden Boozer is at times. We haven't asked him to do that a lot this year, but I'm getting glimpses now and then, and I'm like, I'm salivating over the future. I shouldn't be. We've got a current season that is pretty damn special, and looks like it could keep on going until the very, very end. But I'm seeing little glimpses, and this play was one of them where I was like, man, Caden's going to do that a lot next year, I bet, and we're going to be like, oh my God, he is just incredible. But it was a play. I'm not sure if you spotted it the same way I did, but I was like, I don't know how he found Isaiah, but Isaiah's open for a wide open 3. Boom, he hit it. It was just Kaden had a really nice game, I thought.
What was interesting about that play, Jason, and this is something that maybe is not good on the broadcast, but from my vantage point, you could see what's incredible about that is that it's not that Slim was there when he started his move and he was like, oh yes, I just remembered Slim is behind me, I can pass to him. Slim wasn't in that spot when he started that drive.
Yeah.
So the fact that he found him, knowing that, like almost knowing like, hey, I know this play, he's going to end up in that position. And 99 times out of 100, other team does that. They're throwing that ball into the stands because nobody's there. So the fact that he was able to have that intuition to know that, hey, this is how this is going to work. This is what the endless hours of practice is about, is knowing where your guys are going to be on the floor at all times. And he knew that, hey, I know Slim's not there yet, but if I have trouble, I'm going to turn around and Slim's going to be right there waiting for me. There it was.
All right. You got anything else in the good? I got one last thing in the good that you're going to love.
Go ahead.
All right. My last thing in the good, Ian Jackson. Ian Jackson of St. John's, formerly of UNC, we owe him a debt of gratitude. That kid took bad shot after bad shot again and again and again. He shoots 1 of 7 from 3. Almost every one of them was a shot where I was like, hey, yeah, go ahead, Ian. You're allowed to take that shot if you want. His defense, I thought, was pretty suspect. His backcourt running mate, I mentioned that they had 2 guys who come in and just fire from 3, fire, off the bench. It's Ian Jackson and Joson Sannon. Sannon was 0 of 4 from the field. Look, we're gonna talk about Ruben Prey, I should say, who had a hell of a game off the bench for St. John's. But Ian Jackson and Joson Sannon, those guys are in the good because they helped Duke out by missing like virtually everything they took in this contest.
I love Ian Jackson for what he brought. Thank you for your service, and God bless you. Good night.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we're going to talk about some things to work on, talk about the officials a little bit. We'll have all that in just a moment. Also, we're going to hear from the locker room, Donald Sound talking to the players. It's all coming at you as the DBR podcast rolls on. Duke fans, DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one sportsbook for live betting, is built for March. The tournament is unexpected. The rewards are guaranteed. DraftKings Sportsbook is delivering the most generous rewards in the market.
That's right, Jason. With DraftKings, the number one sportsbook for live betting, you're not just betting what might happen, you're betting what's happening. New to DraftKings? Bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly.
That's not a bad deal, Donald. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code DUKEBB. That's code DUKEBB to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets instantly. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
This episode is brought to you by Alexa Plus. Say hello to Alexa Plus and see how Alexa can do more for you. Need tickets to that last-minute show? Craving your favorite restaurant? Sit back, relax, and talk naturally. Alexa's on it. Alexa learns your preferences to create a personalized experience. And now, Alexa Plus is free with Prime on your Amazon devices, like Echo and Fire TV. Learn more at amazon.com/Alexa Plus.
Refreshing wild cherry cola meets smooth cream. The treat you deserve. Pepsi Wild Cherry and Cream. Treat yourself.
Whether you bond over streaming binge-worthy videos, watching sports recaps, video gaming, or by unplugging altogether, the 2026 Lincoln Nautilus Hybrid helps keep you connected throughout your journey. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Available connectivity features and functionality vary by model. Package pricing, trials, and term lengths vary by model. Video streaming and games are only available while parked.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Listening to this podcast? Smart move. Being financially savvy? Smart move. Another smart move? Having State Farm help you create a competitive price when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling, just another way to save with the personal price plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
All right, we're back from the break on the DBR podcast. Time to talk about things that we want to improve upon. Hey, Donald, here's one. How about we play a team that isn't scorching hot from the perimeter? That'd be nice, wouldn't it? This St. John's club, at one point they were 10 of 20 on three-pointers. I want to point out that I mentioned that during the season they were a team that didn't shoot a lot of threes, but during the NCAA tournament they'd suddenly turned into a club that takes like 50% of their shots from three-point range. I was like, this is really weird. I wonder if this is going to continue. It continued. They took 50% of their shots from three. They have 3 games in the season, only 3 games all year, where they shot 50% or better of their shots from three-point range, and it was their 3 NCAA tournament games. They were like, what happens to scouting? How does scouting work when a team just completely transforms who they are when they play you? It's just bizarre. But after St. John started out 10 of 20 on three-pointers, including hitting 9 in the first half, which is the most they've hit in a half all year. Like, their first half was unlike any half of basketball they've played all season long. After hitting 10 out of 20, they only hit 3 out of 12 down the stretch. So, you know, they returned to normal a little bit. And Ruben Prey, what the hell? Dude had shot a grand total of 12 three-pointers on the season. And out of nowhere, he makes 4 out of 4. I'm sorry, he shot 20. I had it wrong. He'd shot 20 three-pointers on the season. But anyway, that's a tiny number. And he hits 4 out of 4 against Duke. By the way, we made him some NIL money yesterday. Like, that dude's going to get a much bigger NIL payday as a result of what he did in that game. He owes us money for for giving him a little extra. Rick Pitino at one point, I know you were in the arena, you didn't catch this. They interviewed him. They always interview the coaches during the first half at one point.
Mm-hmm.
They interviewed Rick Pitino. It was right after a play where Dylan Mitchell had hit a three-pointer. Dylan Mitchell's an abysmal three. He does not shoot threes. He's an abysmal three-point shooter. And Rick Pitino said, the Lord has blessed. Dylan Mitchell hit a three-pointer. The Lord has blessed us tonight. I mean, Rick Pitino was calling out to God about the three-pointers that they were hitting. What was going on here, Donald?
They were hitting them. Even the Johnny's fans were sitting there like, I can't believe this, especially Ruben Prey. I think they had said that he had made 10 3-pointers all year long and hits 4 in what felt like succession, right? Like
crazy.
He was the bookend of the 13-0 run that they had. And it was, I mean, hats off to him. Like, Sideshow Bob looking hair was hitting the three itself didn't look great, but it was going in, man. Like that's just, again, some of the odds that Duke was up against. I'll just say this about St. John's. They were incredibly strong. They might have been the most aggressively strong team we've seen all year. They were trying for every single steal. They were trying to get 10-second backcourts. They were pressing, and they were doing a great job at taking us out of our flow for, several points in this game. I think that trended to part of why we had a couple of those spurts where we just couldn't get the ball across half court. We had a 10-second violation. They had a couple steals where they poked the ball away. They had one of those Alvarado style, steal the inbound pass type of plays. Yeah. And it turned into points. And those were huge momentum boosts for them and for their crowd. I really commend them for how they came out ready to play. Again, really, really tough. And I think the aggressiveness of it, we could talk about how some of them were probably fouls, but I wasn't necessarily concerned about that in the moment. It was more of, okay, how do we respond to this? This is a huge haymaker that St. John's is throwing at us. How do we respond? How do we get back off the ropes? And, again, Caleb Foster came in to try and settle things down. Kaden Boozer had a tough first half in trying to figure that out. I think he had a better second half in that regard, but it was a struggle for us to try and figure out what St. John's was presenting to us defensively.
Yeah, you were mentioning the refs for a second, and I want to be clear that I think that they were consistent on both ends with both teams. There's a whole thing now in the social media world that Duke gets all the calls. Folks are out in full force, and they're like, oh, look, Duke got 24 free throws in this game. Duke shot 24 and St. John's only shot 8. They're like, it shows you the refs aren't. How could anyone watch that game and say that the refs were like giving Duke a favorable whistle? I don't, like, if you have eyes, Duke shot 24 free throws, Donald, because St. John's fouled the hell out of us on virtually every single play. Now, again, the refs were consistent. That's just the way they were calling it. But the amount of shirt grabbing and pulling that we saw, like, there were tons of plays where I was like, you can see the shirt being pulled. Why are you not calling anything, Mr. Ref? You can see the dude has his arm. It looked like there were times where it looked like the Duke guys were dancing literally like in a waltz with the St. John's guys, because the St. John's guys had their arms around their waists. It was crazy. Constant bumping, constant holding. And it actually, at one point, Donald, it actually cost St. John's at one point, because with 40 seconds left, Patrick Gungba got the ball, and everyone in the arena was like, oh, you got to foul him. You got to foul him right now. And a St. John's guy went up to him and tried to foul him, but because the refs weren't calling like incidental kind of contact and stuff, like they didn't get the foul on Pat. I was like, it was a foul in normal circumstances, but in this game, in the context of what they were calling a foul, they were like, nope, you committed assault, but it wasn't enough of an assault, so they didn't call the foul. It was like insane. Oh, man, it was. And I wanted, by the way, sorry, my rant on the refs is about to conclude. With about 4.5 minutes left, there was that play where Malik Brown makes an incredible block, and he's falling out of bounds. He tried to throw the ball off of Hopkins on St. John's, but Hopkins recovered and then goes to the basket and scored a bucket and got fouled. It was the same play where St. John's then got the rebound on the missed free throw and put it back. It was a moment where everyone in a Duke uniform, everyone who roots for Duke was like, uh-oh. Like that was like the play where you're like, oh, we may lose this game. Like, we really may lose this game. But I want to point out on that play, go back and watch that play again. Nick Hemenia, they called the foul. Hopkins scores the basket, and the foul is on Nick Hemenia. Nick Hemedia was in legal guarding position outside the circle, standing there with his arm straight up for a week before Hopkins falls into him. Like, Hemedia saw the play coming. It is clearly a charge. It is clearly not a block. But these officials, it's just, I don't know what we're going to do with these officials. I know it seems silly when the whole world is saying that Duke gets all the calls that I'm out here talking about how bad the officials were for Duke, but the officials allowed St. John's to get away with bloody murder in that game.
So I'm going to offer a different take on this, because in the arena, it did not feel like the refs were that bad. It just felt like this was, and again, this is credit to St. John's. St. John's turned this into an late 80s, early 90s type of Big East game, right? Like with just the pushing and pulling, like this is before the Jordan rules started kind of leveling the playing field, so to speak. But this was a game where I felt like every single possession was earned. Like even the foul disparity in the end was 20-13, but we were being fouled. Again, if you look at the shot chart, we were being fouled 4 feet, from the basket. They were being fouled 18 feet away from the basket. It wasn't a whole thing where they were being denied trips to the free throw line because they're being denied trips to because they were, going into the lane and getting hacked. It was the quite opposite for us. But I think the other thing that I was looking at is every time it felt like in the second half that there was starting to become a foul disparity on either side, the rest would have a couple calls, and then all of a sudden you'd look and it'd be even. The one thing that I think about is leaving the arena. I was checking to see what all the fouls were. I believe Dylan Darling fouled Isaiah Evans with 10 or 8 seconds left or whatever it was. That was his fourth foul. He's the only person in this game that had 4 fouls. Everyone else had 2, 3, maybe 1. There was a point where I was like, when Malik had a foul, I was like, oh man, Malik's probably on 4. And I check and go, oh no, that was his first. So it felt like, again, it was just a physical game. The refs, there were times where they let a lot of stuff go, and then there was times where they tried to keep a tight whistle to try and rein it back in. I think right after the flagrant 1 was called on Jackson, they kind of tried to spend a couple minutes trying to rein everything back in, and then they let everything become loose again. So, it was an inconsistent application, but in the arena, it didn't feel like it was the refs kind of, making their mark on this game in an abnormal way.
All right, so let's move on to a couple other things in the need to work on. I'm going to talk about Patrick Gungba. Really rusty. Pat was, this was, I'd have to go back and look. I didn't do enough of a deep dive into, his box scores from the entire season. This felt like one of his worst games on the year. Just 1 of 6 on free throws, including he had an air ball. Yee. Again, when he was in the game in the final minute, like the fact that St. John's didn't just tackle him was insane on their part. As a result of him going 1 of 6, Duke is just 15 of 24 on free throws, 62%. We missed, I want to say we missed either 1 or 2 front ends of 1-and-1s.
2.
2. Yeah. We were just 6 of 13 on free throws in the second half. Close game, winning time. It was nerve-wracking, some of the free throws we missed. So let's clean that up, guys. Okay. Next time we have a close game, I don't want to be marking down free throws on my piece of paper that I have next to me to say, oh, is this the one that cost us the game? I don't want to do that ever again, please.
I want to offer an uneducated opinion on Pat Gungba's performance. A lot of us have been hurt, right? We've all had injuries, and sometimes you take some Tylenol to ease the pain, some ibuprofen. You're like, I need to get by. Like, you twist your ankle, you kind of go, let me just stay, take a couple ibuprofen and let this kind of heal. But then there's a certain point where you go, okay, I feel like I can do this without the ibuprofen, right? I feel like I don't need to take the Tylenol. I can walk without pain. It felt like last week when he played against TCU that he was operating with some, not painkillers, right? But he took some aspirin, right? To make sure that the pain was completely gone and he could try to numb that pain. And this felt like the first game that he played where he kind of said, you know what, I can do this without the assistance, right? And he looked stiff. I mentioned that him and Caleb had no lift on their shots outside of 3 feet. You could tell that with Pat at the free throw line. He had no lift from his legs. his form was there, but like there was just no lift to get the ball over the rim, which is why he was coming up short or airballing on all of those misses. And I think that is what contributed a lot to what it was. He just looked very stiff out there. I also think about this when you have a leg injury or a foot injury like that. Sometimes, and we do this in soccer too, sometimes you want to start them instead of having them come off the bench. You warm them up, you put them out there when that leg is warm, and that way you don't have to worry about it being stiffened up by sitting for any period of time on the bench. I noticed that both Caleb and Pat didn't start this game, and when Pat came in, they came in and they immediately had that alley-oop together. I was like, okay, we're off and running. But throughout the whole game, it felt like every time Pat came into the game, he was very stiff, and I wonder if it was because that foot was kind of flaring up on the bench and he was just trying to tough through it. I don't have any inside knowledge on that, but that's just what it looked like from my vantage point.
Yeah, and now they've got like 42 hours or so to rest up. 44. So I'm trying to do the math from the end of the game to the start of our game on Sunday at 5:00, because this is a challenge for them, for the two of them, to be fully ready to give it all against UConn. Hey, Donald, before we're all done, before we do play of the game, we got to talk about your time in the locker room.
Yeah. So after the game, obviously the weird thing is if you're at Duke, for people who are there, if Jason and I ever go to Duke to get sound, you go in the locker room, you get sound, and then you can come back out for the press conference with John Shire. This time for the NCAA tournament, it's going on at the same time, so you have to pick and choose. So
yeah, they did the same thing to me in Greenville. Yeah,
it's just how the NCAA does it. Even during the day before press conferences, it's like one or the other for the most part. So people kind of pick and choose what they need. For Thursday, I went to the Shire in the players' press conferences because we had already previewed, so we didn't need any sound from the locker room for that. So this time around, I said, hey, let's go into the locker room and try to get some sound from as many players as possible. So I got to talk to Dame Sarr, I got to talk to Nicaminia and Kaden Boozer. Again, there were scrums around some of these guys, so you try to go for the ones where you could get a couple questions in. And so I got to ask three of these players, not just about the game and what transpired, but really focusing in on their toughness and the rebounding that they exhibited. So here's sound from Dame Sarr, from Nicaminia, and from Kaden Boozer.
Nick, the rebounding has always been something you guys have kind of leaned on, despite the fact that everything was physical, maybe back and forth. What was about it that you guys were able to continue to out-rebound teams like that?
I think it's kind of just our will. We have a lot of guys who just want to win at the end of the day. And when we know that the rebound is going to help us win the game, that's what we're willing to do, and we want to do to win. We wanted to have another game with each other, so we decided to win the Sweet 16 and go to Elite Eight.
Thanks, Nick. Kaden, in the first half, it seemed like it was a struggle just getting the ball up the court. You guys kind of were able to turn around at halftime or just in the second half. What was the talk at halftime about the adjustments you wanted to make?
Yeah, we just had to be strong with the ball. It was as simple as that. We knew that their pressure was going to be tough. Obviously, we practiced it all week, but you can't replicate the St. John's pressure. But, the biggest thing is just getting the ball in balance, not turning it over in the full court, and just making simple plays.
You had the rebounding advantage throughout the game, and it felt like no matter what was happening, you were able to kind of get back to that part of your game. What about that were you able to, as a team, be able to do to try and out-rebound St. John's?
I mean, we knew that to win this game, we had to limit our turnovers and win the rebound battle. So we knew it wasn't going to be easy, but we're one of the best rebounding teams in the country for a reason. So just Duke habits, things that we've been working on since June, just getting the ball, finding a way to get the ball. So that was a big thing for us, obviously, for this game. Every time they out-rebound a team, they win. Every time they turn the team over, I think, plus 15, they win the game. So we knew that we had to be prepared for that and do that this game.
Thanks, Tommy, they were very physical and trying to take steals from you guys, and you made an adjustment at halftime. What was that adjustment like? What were you talking about in the locker room to kind of rebound from that?
I feel like we kind of was playing a little bit on our heels, and also we were not trusting the passes, and we were not getting open real well. But then Caleb took the game, and he handled the pressure. He was really composed. He was really calm, and he for us, it got a lot easier when he was out there. So just shout out to him, man. What he's been doing is unbelievable.
Thanks, Adam.
Jason, I think the one thing that comes out of that, first of all, again, I left all the stuff out where, again, almost every question, those are the three answers that I got that didn't necessarily involve Caleb Foster. That's just how much of an impact he had in this game. And I didn't think we needed, 15 minutes of them just saying Caleb Foster, Caleb Foster, Caleb Foster, although it would have been fun. This would have made a long episode. But I think the one thing
is, I got bad news for you. It already is a long episode.
Right. And we could talk for Caleb Foster until Sunday, but we're not going to do that for our listeners because we'll do that offline. I think the one thing is the rebounding, the fact that they come back to that. Like, it's almost part of their foundation is, hey, no matter what's going on out here, no matter what might be going off for us, no matter what might be things that we need to really work on adjustments, there's no adjustments with rebounding. Like, rebounding is always there. It's always been there. And the fact that, as we've mentioned, they have these double-digit advantages in rebounding leads to some, high things, right? The fact that sometimes that leads to second chance points. We were awesome at second chance points. What was it? 15-6 in second chance points. There you go. There's your game. And that's because of rebounding. That's because of taking them out of their element, forcing them to bad shots, making sure they don't get a second bite at the apple, and then going the other way so that we can get points. It's their foundation. It's clear that they leaned in on that to try and get them back in the game.
By the way, the thing I loved in the sound that you had was Kaden Boozer talking. He talked about the rebounds, talked about the turnovers. Mm-hmm. And there were a couple times he was citing a couple of statistics and stuff. I'm like, this kid, mm-hmm. Yeah, I enjoyed that. All right, man, let's get to play of the game time. I'm going to go ahead and start with this. Isaiah's step back 3-pointer with just under 4 minutes left, which was not a good shot. It was on the move. It was contested. It was just a supreme confidence shot. It was like, I know I'm making this because, by the way, if you miss that shot, I'm never going to forgive you for it. But it took Duke from down 2 to up 1. That was my play of the game. I'll let you do your play game, but I got a couple other sort of half nominees, so to speak, that I wanted to shout out as well. But I thought Isaiah's step back was the play of the game.
I mean, that plus the Cam and one on the other end. I think that sequence was one of the ones that I thought about. But the one I'm going to go with is Cephas with the 4 straight points at the end. That pump fake jumper, and then they go down. Zuby gets a jump shot, but then he drives into the lane and makes a layup. Again, that was a play that all the St. John's fans kind of turned to each other and go like, this guy broke his foot 3 weeks ago. How is he doing this against us? And every one of his 11 points were life-saving points, and those 4 at the end. I almost went with the 7-point stretch, 7 straight point stretch. We were down 10 because that crept us back into the game, but those 4 points are what really started putting the nail in the coffin for St. John's.
So the other ones I wanted to shout out at the 16-minute mark of the first half, Malik got a deflection, and then he still, he's fallen out of bounds with the ball, and he managed to save it. And Duke raced to the other end, and Isaiah took a 3-pointer that he missed, and then someone from Duke got an offensive rebound and put it in. I realized it was Malik. I was like, wait a second. Malik got a deflection and a steal, falls out of bounds, and then he got an offensive rebound putback on the same damn play. Like, it was phenomenal, the impact Malik was making. And then I also wanted to mention, with about 8:15 left in the first half, Kaden had that play where he kind of missed a layup, and I was like, oh, man. But then Malik slapped the ball away and tossed it to Kaden, who fed Dame. Again, it was one of these plays where I don't know how Kaden saw where Dame was, but he fed Dame for a thunder slam. I think it was Dame's only points of the game. I was just like, both those plays were true Malik Brown, just, coming out of nowhere, doing his thing, and I love both those plays.
You failed to mention that the Dame dunk was over Zuby Ejiofor. After I think Ejiofor had some big play on the other end, Dame was just like, hey, St. John's, shut up. And just absolutely dunked it over. I think he yelled so loud that I could hear it up in the rafters. But yeah, that was a big play. Unfortunately for Dame, several other big plays happened that took that out of contention.
There you go. All right. We're going to call it quits here on this episode. Donald and I are both going to stop a second, catch our breath, maybe drink a little sip of water, And then we'll be back at you in your feed in a matter of moments because we got to preview the game against against UConn. I'm getting my opponents confused here. Preview the game against UConn. We're going to bring Scott Rich on to do that. Scott lives in Stores. He's quite literally in the UConn backyard. So we'll be talking to him about that. And you're going to want to tune into that episode because of this. We're also going to talk about one of the most incredible women's basketball games that you will see in a long time, a buzzer beater, a roll around the rim buzzer beater by the Duke women to advance to the Elite Eight. Well, we will talk about that on the next episode of the DBR podcast. Until then, that is Donald. I am Jason, the Duke Band. They just keep on playing because we keep on playing. Elite Eight coming up next. Play us out and take us home.
The comedy movie event of the year, Mike and Nick and Nick and Alice. Now streaming only on Hulu and Disney+.
Time to party.
That's a great attitude. It's a time-traveling, ass-kicking movie event.
You sound insane.
Starring Vince Vaughn, James Marsden, and Asa Gonzalez.
I thought you were a clone. Well, clones aren't real, dummy. And time machines are super grounded in reality.
Mike and Nick and Alice. Rated R. Written and directed by Ben David Grabinski. Only on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers.